first, next to me, I have Mary Alice Stevenson. I'm so excited that you're here. And she is the founder of Glam for Good, and she's also a humanitarian. And she has been pioneering this conversation for decades now, and really a leader in that conversation that we're talking about with self-care insecurity and poverty and giving people resources and access to ways to take care of themselves. So definitely check out Glam for Good, and I can't wait for you to hear more about the organization tonight as well. So thank you for being here, Mary Alice.
I'm honored to be here.
And then we have Amina Altai. Hi, Amina. Amina has an amazing book coming out in May called The Ambition Trap, and she's also an executive coach. She's worked at places like Roku and Google and Deloitte, so she is somebody that you're definitely going to want to watch for inspiration and to support you with all of those needs. Thank you for being here. And we have Christine Eckhart. Hi, Christine. Christine also has a book coming out, which is wild. We have lots of books coming out on this panel, which is very exciting. I mean, I feel like it's trying to tell us something. But yes, so Christine.
I mean, we're by the library.
I know,
Yeah.
we're by the library.
Write the books, read the books.
It's so true. We're by the library. And Christine is also the host of I should say like the founder basically, of our book club in the Chronicon community app, which I'm so proud of. And she is like we have the most chill book club, thanks to Christine. Like everyone was like, oh no, are we gonna have to stress out and read all these books and be on a timeline? Christine's like, no, you don't even have to read the book, just come. It's super chill. If you don't have energy, if you're going through a flare, just come. So it's awesome, so thank you for that. And then we have Dr. Avanti Kumar Singh. Hi, it's so good to see you. I saw you recently in Chicago. And Avanti has an amazing book coming out as well, and it's called The Longevity Formula, which I'm really excited about. I feel like longevity is really in like the zeitgeist right now. We're just talking about it everywhere. And she's also a host, and I'm really excited that you're here. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we're gonna get right into it. I really wanna hear a little bit about each of your stories, and I know we have a lot to get to, and also, just so you know, we're gonna have 10 minutes of Q&A at the end, so you'll get to ask some questions. But I want each of you to let me know a pivotal moment when you realized that your chronic illness journey was gonna have you really navigate your life differently, and how did that show up for you?
A reactivated Epstein-Barr virus and chronic EVB showed up for me about 3 years ago. And I had basically been on, super speed through my career in fashion and then founding a nonprofit. And basically that moment was when I had planned a big wedding in Italy and had to cancel it. And that was kind of an emotional moment. Obviously, we still got married, and so that was good. But was that, I knew that something was that I couldn't overcome this, that I couldn't overcome it in the way that I thought that I could overcome everything, because I've overcome a lot in my life, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't figure it out. It was just mind-boggling. So that was a big moment for me, an emotional moment, and one that I realized that I have to think about what this chronic illness in a different way than I was normally used to thinking, which was just like, I've got this, I can do it, and so that was.
I know that every single person on this panel, and probably so many in this room, can resonate with that. I definitely resonate with that. Like, you just can't overpower. You can't push escape. Like, let's just like move on to the next thing. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Amina, how about you?
Yes, that I can do this, I can overcome, that is so resonant. And I've shared before on lots of stages about my initial health crisis, and my doctors called me to tell me that I was days away from organ failure, but that wasn't the moment, actually, because I don't think I was in my body for that moment. But about 4 years ago, I had toxic mold exposure. And for like 6 months, I didn't know what was going on. The doctors thought it was another autoimmune disease, and it made my brain swell and actually caused a brain injury. And I'm an executive coach, so I do most of my work on Zoom, and all of a sudden I had auditory processing issues. I couldn't stare at the screen for too long, and I was so worried. I was like, am I gonna be able to do my job? Am I gonna be able to pay my bills? And not to be a silver linings person, because it's not my favorite, but there was a silver lining that came out of it, because it really had me heal my relationship with codependency, because up until that point, my business model had kind of been codependency, where I was like, let me overgive and overserve and undercharge. And because I'd gotten so sick and my energy was so small, I really had to shift that relationship, and it ended up being pretty powerful.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Christine, how about you?
I don't think there was one moment for me. It was more of a series of moments. I started seeing symptoms at 13, so most of middle school, high school was 100% like push through and just do whatever you got to do. And then once I got to college, everybody was very set in the ways of, here is how you be a filmmaker, here is how you be a writer, here's how you be whatever. And I was like, that's not me. So how am I going to do this? Especially with the chronic illness stuff coming in. And that really made me step back and think, okay, I could either not do any of these things that I want to do. I could push through, do them all, and still be really miserable. Or there's maybe another way that I can still sort of get there and have a better balance. Or, you know, maybe it's not the way that most people will do it, but if it works for me and it still gets me there, that's still a good path. So it just really made me rethink, you know, I can still do all those things. I just get there differently now.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Avanti, how about you?
So my chronic illness is more of a diagnosis that I got less than 2 years ago, breast cancer, out of nowhere. I'm a physician. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. I have basically been taking care of people my entire life. And push, very much, you know, career, write a book, write another book, teach, all these things. And it brought me to my knees, I will tell you. I was pissed off. I was so mad. And it was a moment actually at home on the floor. I can still see it because it was only February of 2023, so it's not that long ago. I was on the floor crying hysterically, and I just had that moment of realization that I was going to have to relinquish being the doctor and become a patient, and that was really scary. And for me to become a patient and have a healing team around me for once, I had to accept help from other people, including receiving love. That was a big lesson. I was really good at, you know, asking for help in my career, in my work, you know, having children, having a family, but receiving it, like really taking it in, was never a strong point for me. And I realized in that moment that if I was going to get through this, I had to be able to do that. So that was a real moment I could remember.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And the receiving love conversation, oh my God, I see nods. Like, yes, it's such a big part of this. I feel like when you go through so much with your body, you know, we're so in tune with what we need, and then we're focusing on, oh, what does everybody else need? And so to actually sit and let ourselves receive is a really big piece of it. So I also want to ask each of you, what does building your best life look like? Like, what is that, like the life that you want, right? That's what we're really talking about. And how did chronic illness really shape that for you? We can start with you, Mary Alice, again, and then, yeah.
Well, I mean, I hope we all strive to keep building, right? Yeah. So I'm 57, and I've built a big life.
Huge. And
all of a sudden, bam, I got sick. And so I think the fear was that I'd have to stop building, right? And I really, I think I was really mad at myself, so I had to reframe. Instead of like going up, I was fighting myself, and instead of doing that, I had to reframe and think, okay, this is giving me an opportunity to have a deeper understanding of what's going to be healthy for my body, to grow and learn, to receive, right? And the past 3 years, I've still been able to keep building out our foundation, Glam for Good, but I've had to do it in a different way than I was used to, really, and accept help. I think a lot of people that do get illness, they're high achievers, and there's some correlation there. There's
figure it out
there,
eventually,
right?
Yeah.
And ask for help. And now I'm focusing on really building an understanding of what are the possibilities, that the healing modalities that I can use to help heal. And I've been to multiple doctors, and everyone has kind of a different way. And so now I feel like I'm building a team that can help heal me, right? And that's a huge part of my life where it wasn't so much before. I was just going.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really hit something for me when you said I was afraid I was going to have to stop building. I think, oh my gosh, I've definitely been there, and it's a very scary moment. So the fact that we just keep on going is pretty beautiful. Amina, how about you?
The high achiever connection is one that we really do need to study.
Yeah, we need to do a study on that.
I've built a whole practice around working with high achievers that have burned out or gotten sick. But for me, a life in which I can thrive is one where I get to really honor my contribution and my purpose, one where I get to be devoted to that, and also where I get to really take care of my mind and body and not have to instrumentalize it to achieve the things that I want to achieve. And I think how chronic illness has really shaped that for me has really been honoring my zones of genius, because when you have chronic illness, you don't have spoons for everything, right? You have like 2 spoons. And so we can't be spending those spoons in our zone of competence or incompetence, because that's not our highest yield contribution. So for me, it's really redirected me to that zone of genius place, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot in our friendship, I feel like. And for those of you who are allies and don't know what spoons means, it's an energy term that we use in the chronic illness community. So we don't got no spoons, we don't got no energy. So just so you know. Christine, what about you?
I mean, can I just say Zones of Genius? That's the next book right there. Like,
Someone already wrote it.
We got that from a book.
I love
That's
okay.
fine.
I was gonna say that sounds perfect. I think for me, building is the key. That as long as I'm sort of approaching in some manner the way that I want to live or the life that I've envisioned for myself, I feel content. I'm definitely not 100%. It's not the like beautiful, perfect life that I've always wanted, but I'm working on it and I'm still going after it and I haven't given up. Some of it's, just a mental thing of there was a time when I was like, okay, life is going to be absolutely nothing and I'll just, blob along and that'll be how it is. But as long as I take that one step, and if that's all I do that day, I've worked toward my dream life. And that's still, a lot of people don't even take that one step. So I'm already ahead of the game if that's all I do. And so as long as I build, I'm good.
Yeah, I love that. Just keep being in action. Gentle action, sounds like, yeah. Yeah, Avanti, how about you?
So for me, building is really about integrating all aspects of my life. I'm an integrative doc, so it kind of follows. But I think it's also something that you said about taking one small step. That's something I've always actually taught my students and told my patients is take one small step. In this culture, we are so obsessed with having to do everything all at once to feel better. It's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Do one small thing to make yourself feel better, whether it's meditating for 3 minutes or taking some deep breaths, going for a walk for 5 minutes, sitting outside on your patio, right? Any of these things help you to integrate that self-care. And self-care is a weird word too, but like that self-compassion of taking care of yourself into a life that can be really tough sometimes when you're dealing with a chronic illness or a chronic diagnosis, right? So I think it's really about integrating these pieces throughout your day and really congratulating yourself and celebrating the fact that you did that 3 minutes of meditation, right? Don't try to do the biggest things every day. It's okay. That's building for me.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm noticing that more and more in conversations that people are, the anti-hustle conversation. I don't know if we'll ever completely get rid of the hustle, but it's kind of comforting to know that we can embrace that a little bit more. So, Christine, I actually wanted to ask you, community is a big part of what people are focused on, whether you have a chronic illness or not, but especially, one of the reasons why we started the Chronicon community, which is our app, is because people would always tell me that they wanted to have more friends and more friends that actually really got them on a level that they have never felt before. And I was like, how am I supposed to make you all have new friends? I was really unsure. And then we started the community. And I just wanted to know, for you, what role does community play in your life, just even your day-to-day life? And how do you navigate those relationships while you're living with a chronic illness?
Community is always something I had issues with. I'm an introvert by nature. And then a chronic illness certainly did not help. So it's always been something that I have been looking for. And for me, the Chronicon platform has been something I wanted since I first saw symptoms. Like I said, I was 13, I was young. Like teenagers running around don't know a thing about how sick you are. And the first time we did a book club, everybody was so welcoming and so vulnerable and genuine and supportive. They didn't know me, but they just jumped in and they were all in right away, and it was so beautiful. And I really learned that, community doesn't have to be extravagant and expensive in terms of like your time and energy. If it is, that's probably not the community for you. I've been in some of those communities and said, hold up, let's maybe extricate ourselves. And it can be something as little as like, I write down in my planner that one friend. That's all I have to do this week is like send a text to that friend. Or I have a Chronicon event. There have been times when, I don't talk, I don't show up on camera. I'm just there to like hear my people, and they really are my people. And I think just that little bit helps, and is something, in the past I would have been like, well, I just won't go because I feel awful. But I think it really does help lift you up, and that support is really there. And, again, it's just that little bit. It really does go a long way.
Yeah. That's so important. And I find that it's kind of a non-negotiable for me now when I make friends. Like if you are somebody that I'm stressed about communicating my needs to, then we probably should not be friends. Yeah. But it's not always easy to do that. Even if you know that for yourself, sometimes it can still feel really edgy and tender. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And we do want to take questions from the audience, but Caitlin, I'm going to still ask 2 more questions because I want to make sure we get everybody in. And I did have a question for Avanti and Amina. I wanted to know, for people who are maybe in the audience or even like love somebody at home that isn't here, who's an ally, that is dealing with chronic illness, and they feel so devastated and so discouraged, and they feel like kind of just at the bottom of the journey. What is something that you tell your clients or your patients when, and I know we talked about one simple step and that's really important, but is there anything else that we can sort of layer onto that about what people can do when they feel like they really just they don't see the light in the journey?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, it's probably connection. But for me, it's connection to self, connection to others, or connection to a higher power, something larger than yourself. I think that if you can just focus in on saying, I'm going to connect to something, you can actually see that there's so much more than what's going on inside. It takes you out of that space a little bit. So I feel like that kind of connection, and I mean, there have been studies that have been done that, one of the best ways to shift your mood is to do something for somebody else. And so why not do something for yourself, connect with another person, whether it's a text or, just smiling at somebody when you're going out for a walk or, ordering groceries or whatever it is. I think that can help to shift things. So connection for me.
It's not, a practice that I use for myself and with my clients is letting things be transient. So when I'm like having a challenging time or a bad day, I'll often over-identify with that feeling. Like I am frustrated, I am sad, I am angry, versus being, I feel sad, I feel frustrated, I feel angry. And emotions by nature are transient, right? They're energy in motion. They're meant to be fleeting. And so allowing them to be fleeting and not over-identifying with them for me has been a really great practice. And then also I would say focusing on the things that we can control, right? So much feels out of our control, especially in those devastating moments. So what are the things that we can control? And I would talk to a lot of clients about this at the beginning of the pandemic when everything just felt so extremely out of control. And it was like, okay, today I can control the color of my hair or who I'm going to talk to on the phone. And just those little pieces can make such a big difference in our lives.
I love that. Both really tangible points from both of you. Thank you so much. And Mary Alice, I want to end with asking you a question. And I know you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to dig a little deeper around when people are really ambitious and they also get a chronic illness. What are some things that, I know you said you ask for help sometimes and things like that, but I want to kind of dig deeper for people if they're navigating that fierce ambition. They want to start something like Glam for Good. They want to have a nonprofit. They want to do all of these things. They want to write a book, like whatever it might be. And they're also like, I am so tired. Like, I can't even think straight. What are some of the things that you had to do, really to pull from your toolkit, if we can, for a second?
Well, I realized that a lot of us in New York, our nervous systems, not only from being sick, but it also contributes to our illness. Our nervous systems, and like you said, our energy, our chi is whacked out, right? And so while I was trying to understand more about Epstein-Barr and with doctors, and I really started working with people that could teach me things like tapping. I mean, I didn't ever do that. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done that. And settling my nervous system, that it wasn't just like the actual, my health, your health is a part of your nervous system. And I'm not a doctor, but settling my chi, settling my nervous system, changing how I talk to myself, and meditating instead of like fighting. I was so mad at myself, like, what is going on? What is going on? And like, changing the way that I would speak to myself, like, look at what you've done. Look at, you are here. Like, you have had an incredible career. Look at what you've built. Like, it's okay. Like, thinking that this is maybe a time out, and instead of just, a barrier. And so starting to also walking, and I did a lot of research on trees, and they're very healing. She's nodding her head. And so doing things that I wasn't normally always doing, trying to incorporate healing practices, energy healing, tapping, wood bathing. You could do it in Central Park. It's great. Cold plunging, these kind of things, always working in the morning and then trying to spend the afternoon doing more of those kind of practices have really helped my journey. And I've still been able to build, and just breathing through it all.
Yes, and I'm like, on cue, we can each take a deep breath. No, that's really beautiful. Excuse me, that's really beautiful. And I love that for each point that everybody brought up so far, it sounds like it's really about tapping into what's true for you and figuring that out. And it is this alchemy that happens over time. It's not something that, as you've heard in all of these stories, it's not something that you understand right when you get diagnosed or right when something comes up or you're having a flare. And having that kindness for yourself and reaching out to somebody and really taking that time is so important.